Hey, South Bay, I'm Jeff Pollard at solarpowerthepeople.org and Jeff Pollard 11 on Instagram. I'm with Isabel and Adam.
Hello.
And we are on another part of this journey that they went on. Now, if you want to do out of order, they went on this crazy North America journey, and it took around
61 days.
61 days.
22,000 miles of road.
And they, so it was from Southern California where we are, all the way up to Alaska, cutting through Canada, all the way back down. Now we are on day 37, I believe.
Yeah, around there.
And, but quickly, since this is, this has been very scattered based on schedules, what else did you do between this length that we did?
Well, since we last talked, we went to Kansas City on a little 12-state jaunt.
Another road trip. I love it.
No, I love it. I mean, I got some business out in Kansas City, so my dad does, so I
business
turned that
and
into
pleasure,
a road.
though.
Exactly.
So instead of flying, we drove all the way out because I hadn't been to two of the states we went to.
So now, in the past year and a half or so, we have been to 46 states.
See, I feel like, and that's a goal. They're doers. They're doers. They actually seen all 50. I've seen like 10. So that's awesome.
That's a really good start.
But they're all touching California and then adjacent.
Hey, they'll still be there. You got plenty of time.
I love that. That's true. All right, so we're on day 37, this epic journey.
We basically left off. We hit the Atlantic Ocean around the Cape of Gaspé in Quebec. Had some great seafood poutine out there. Saw a whale. It's a great time. Then we drove out of Quebec south to the small foresty province of New Brunswick.
More trees, I dig it.
Oh yeah.
We've talked about earlier, Canada is just lush, so that's awesome.
Oh my God, it's beautiful out there.
For folks in the United States, when you think of New Brunswick, just continue what your idea of Maine is up, and it's going to be actually less developed. Not developed, but...
No, yeah, less developed. That's a great way of putting it.
There's going to be
buildings
more
and
forests, more small towns than you might find even in Maine. And it is just, it's beautiful. It's paradise on earth.
I'm happy you said that just because Maine, for some reason, I can't even tell you really. I mean, I watched Murder, She Wrote. I like, a few of the Stephen King stuff. I'm a fan of him. But it's like, I couldn't really tell you why I'm so attracted to Maine, but I want to go. And so now if I go to this... What was this area? Sorry.
This is New Brunswick?
Brunswick.
Yeah.
That's kind of like another Maine, a Canadian Maine, right?
Yeah,
so
it's
cool.
a little
That's
bit
awesome.
quieter. I mean, Maine itself, we'll get to that in a bit, but Maine itself is like the only like natural part left of the East Coast.
Really?
So if you are an East Coaster, that's your area to like go out into the woods, leave your city, leave your megalopolis behind, and we have a lot of that on the West Coast. I mean, most of California still is pretty natural, like Oregon and everything. They both have their Portlands right there. It's the East Coast nature spot.
Okay.
But we'll get to that.
Okay.
This day 37, we ended up in kind of one of the more main towns in New Brunswick called Moncton. And this was a town we were really excited to go to for one reason. There was this restaurant called the Tide and Boar Gastropub that brags that they have this wild boar poutine.
Okay.
That was just positively a medieval experience where it's just big chunks of pork with like the amazing poutine. We were just digging in. It was delicious. One of the best meals ever.
So they're poutine files, and that's awesome that they've tried another version. Okay.
When you're in Canada, I mean, you gotta.
Okay.
And something we're going to touch on later is also why the poutine in Canada is phenomenal. We're going to get
let's get to that. It's day 38. First thing we do is we head to Canada's tiniest province, Prince Edward Island.
Okay.
Which is its most agricultural province. This is where most of the food and stuff is grown. And what Izzy was getting to is this is where potatoes are grown in Canada. Here we think Idaho equals potatoes and potatoes equals Idaho.
Right.
But in Canada, it's Prince Edward Island, and it's different there. The consistency and flavor of the potatoes, they're cakier,
and a little
denser.
bit sweet. The ones here that are grown in Idaho are starchier than the ones that are grown on Prince Edward Island. So when you turn them into French fries, they're almost like a cake.
And then you pour the gravy on it, and the cheese, and then the toppings. It makes for some damn good poutine.
Does it keep its structure though? Because if I hear cake, then I'm thinking softer. I'm thinking it's gonna turn into mash once you put gravy in. Is it still like a
It holds.
dirty fry?
Yeah.
Better than Idaho potatoes, because Idaho potatoes, when they get
Can
wet,
flake a little bit
they
more.
kind of pull apart. Like when you have a French fry and you break it apart and it kind of just boop. Versus the Prince Edward Island potatoes, they almost are like
it's got some bend to
it's
it.
got bends.
Yeah.
Imagine like you have mashed potatoes that you then fried as a French fry. They're gonna hold a little bit better, but they're gonna be easier to digest, easier to chew, and they're gonna absorb so much more of that gravy.
I've been missing these fries ever since being in this part of the world.
Can you tell by the way we talk about it?
No. So I don't know if I've asked this already, but like in terms of the fry, how is it Canadians make their fries? Is it a big wedge? Is it a curly? What kind of fries?
It's a little bit like thicker than your average fry, but it's still, your kind of
between a wedge
square
and a
kind of
regular?
thing. Yeah.
Like I don't know, the size of your finger.
Okay.
A little thicker. We got kind of thin fries you can grab by a bunch. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, less shoestring, more kind of thick. I mean, just to show off the quality of these potatoes.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the other weird question I have, this is more for me. Did you get to see like their actual potato? And we might have to hold for the trash truck. But did you actually get to see like the full potato? And like, I don't know if you know your potatoes, but was it a purple potato? Was it a yellow potato? Was it like a steak potato? What kind of potato?
It just looked like your same kind of potato. Really.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm just curious to like. Canadian potatoes, or they grow more of like the purple ones you see. Or
it looks like a standard potato, but the difference in the soil is they
yeah.
have this kind of red soil there.
Okay.
And so I wonder if there's something to do with what that
the
soil is
iron
made
content
up
or something. I mean, yeah, Prince Edward Island is famous for its red sand beaches, and that's another thing that we were able to visit. Just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's as like red as like some of the like desert national park areas, but on the beach, and that's just gorgeous.
You'll even be driving along some of the rural roads, because on the periphery you'll have like these towns, but then you have to drive through these farm areas in order to get to them, and you'll just look out at the fields and you'll see those patches of red still, because all the soil there is that red soil.
Okay, that's really cool. Now, is the sand on the coast, because it's a different, is it more rocky? Is it a fine
It's a very
one?
fine sand, actually. Yeah, it's a very fine, red, beautiful sand. I mean, the beaches there, we went and visited a couple. Were just so gorgeous, so picturesque.
Did you dip in at all? A little bit?
A little bit, just a little bit. Yeah, I didn't go full on swimming here because we had a long day. This was almost a 9-hour day because we left New Brunswick. Drove. There is a bridge that connects the mainland. I think it's like at least a 10-mile bridge over the ocean.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
To get over to Prince Edward Island, drove around. It's a very small territory. It's the Rhode Island of Canada.
Yeah, but go humans for doing that.
Yeah. And it's perfectly free to cross the bridge to Prince Edward Island, but
the way.
Big. Yeah.
All right.
Going back is a $50 toll.
Wow, that's
Brutal.
actually more evil. Because you think you're okay going in.
Yeah, you can go to the island in the ocean, but if you want to come back to, the continent, $50 to drive over that bridge.
Oh, evil.
That
evil.
Hurts.
Yes. Now, was that 50 equivalent or?
50 Canadian.
Yeah, it's pretty much equivalent. A little bit less. But still.
Still for a toll. Okay.
Yeah, for a road toll.
Oh.
I mean, I guess it's expensive to build a long bridge over the ocean, but
I know, right?
Come on.
When will it pay for itself? That's crazy. You're like fine going. Oh my. Anyway.
That said, worth it. It's a beautiful place to be. If you're anywhere nearby, go. Just go. It's worth it. It's just so nice there.
Also, you have to mention that restaurant we went to when we were on Prince Edward Island.
Oh yeah, I think I was called Hop Yard. Yeah, Hop Yard. It was a brewery, and they had all this amazing like Jewish food, but elevated, like cool.
Like a new take on it.
Yeah, like really cool kinds of like latkes and matzo ball soups, but like really cool stuff. It's
almost like a fusion type thing.
Yeah,
you know, minus like connected.
Like
in Charlottetown, it's
interpretations
gorgeous.
Of classic dishes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so good. And it was
Very
it was a
kosher.
restaurant, brewery, and record store,
Oh,
So
it
were
was
there
so
all in one
beers?
building. It was so much fun.
So you wait for your food, and then you can just go out and peruse the racks full of records.
All right.
That's a vibe.
Yeah.
That's a
And
hell
you
of a
can
vibe.
buy it there too. So
I was gonna say purchase one.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
They
get
can
all
add
your
that to your
shopping
tab
done.
probably.
Yeah.
$50. That's gonna loom over me. That's okay. That's
Yeah,
funny,
no,
though.
that's haunted me since too.
How,
But
and was the beer tasty?
oh, it was lunch, so we didn't
All right.
partake.
Okay.
But the food was
You know,
plenty
they just did their
delicious.
shots.
Yeah, drove back to the mainland. Immediately drove into Nova Scotia, which is a really pretty out there province. Really gorgeous, but it is remote out there. It's way out there in the Atlantic. Most of it is pretty rural. You know, it's got Halifax, which is a big city, but other than that, it's a pretty quiet but beautiful area
Right.
to drive through. So we just, kept driving east until there was no land to
No
drive
more
east
east.
on, and ended up in this town of North Sydney, Nova Scotia, which is right at the very, very tip. Just about as far, I mean, literally as far as you can get. It's actually not even connected to North America. This whole part of Nova Scotia is called Cape Breton Island, very famous for being gorgeous.
Okay.
And while we were there in North Sydney, we actually stayed at this amazing bed and breakfast that was originally owned and built by a sea captain, because out there you have a lot of people who were in the the fishing
It's a
and
port town.
transport industry. And so we stayed in this beautiful home that was built in the 19th century. You know, the woman
Okay.
who was in charge of it, she inherited it from her husband, whose grandfather had actually built it. And she works on estate sales. So it's like you're actually stepping back in time and staying in the 19th century. You know, the furniture, the things that were on the walls, the decor. And it wasn't like uncomfortable. It was, you were living in luxury in the 19th century.
Living the sea captain's luxuries. I'll give them a
Yeah.
plug. It's called Chambers Guest House.
I was gonna
If you
say.
are in North Sydney, Nova Scotia, trying to get your way to Newfoundland, stay there. Chambers Guest House.
And
That's
she
worth
had
the money there.
amazing
It is. It's not
breakfast
even all
the
that
next
expensive.
morning.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Just ideal.
Less than 50. That's gonna be
No.
the thing. But all right.
No,
No,
that's
all right.
hard to do.
She had amazing breakfast the next morning too. Everything was
All the
handmade.
nicest china and everything.
Like
Crystal.
dice plates out.
She had
Yeah,
the crystal out, like
the
beautiful, like,
crystal
pink
crystal.
and green plates, and everything was like color coded. So we
Okay.
had one room that was entirely pink, one room that was entirely green, and she had
Oh, that's
knickknacks that
cool.
were actually from the sea captain too. So she had like little seahorses, fossils, things from around the world, a
It's
tile
like
from the Taj
staying in a
Mahal.
museum.
Yeah, that's cool.
And just the sweetest people owning it, and just one of the best days of the trip, easily.
Absolutely.
I admire
Easily.
anyone that can preserve any type of thing more than 50 years. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy that you could be like, there's this history, not only a family history, which is awesome, but then all these things that you were talking about. Oh, that's cool.
She
This was a great
wonderful.
day. This was such a great day. Got some
Cool.
Korean barbecue out there.
How was Korean barbecue?
It was
there?
pretty alright.
It doesn't compare to
Alright.
LA though. LA
But,
is where it's
like-
at. But
For Nova Scotia, it was damn good.
Okay.
still really good.
Yeah, it was a great place to eat if you're out there. It's a tiny port town,
Yeah.
way out on the edge of the world out here.
Tiny but big enough to have, not I'm not saying that Korean barbecue wouldn't go to a tiny town, but they gotta have people that want it. So
Sure,
I guess
no, it
that's
was
cool.
busy.
All right.
It was busy, certainly.
Really delicious, great service, and I mean this town was just so wonderful to visit.
And that is the place to go if you're traveling to Newfoundland, because transitioning to day 39,
Okay.
July 17th, 2022, this is where you catch the boat to get to Newfoundland.
Now, the way this map kind of looks, I'm confused. Did you rotate it at all? It looks like...
So we're actually right here. So we actually
So
drove
this
our
is right
car
here.
onto the ferry.
This was one of the
Okay.
coolest parts of the whole thing, because there's no bridge to Newfoundland. This is like a 90-mile 90 miles of open ocean
Okay.
between this little port town and the next port town in Newfoundland.
How long did that ferry take? Do you remember? Roughly?
6-7 hours or so, most of the day.
When we're saying ferry, we're not saying a small ferry. There were
No.
semi-trucks on
Hold
this
cars.
ferry.
Yeah. Okay.
Trucks.
Wow. Okay.
Semi-trucks.
Yeah,
and, like,
this is
hundreds
how
of cars.
this is how stuff moves. I mean, to this whole island.
So a little smaller than a cargo ship. You know those big old things.
It was pretty darn big.
But long. Okay.
Yeah, and you just kind of you check in, you wait in line with your car,
Yeah.
and then you're ushered on by a bunch of people. You got to park just the right way, so everyone's packed in like sardines, and then everyone leaves the vehicle deck behind.
You pray the
Okay.
cars around you have their parking brakes on.
Because can you imagine if the waves going like that, just some car, boom, boom,
Yes.
boom, boom.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, we ended up being fine, thank God.
Good. No dents. No
Yeah,
bumpers.
yeah. But that was the most of the day boat ride. It was
7, okay.
beautiful. I mean, it was calm seas, thank God, because that is not a guarantee in this part of the world.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, yeah, these are shipwrecking waters out here.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was a cool boat. I got to try a Newfoundland dish that I'd heard about. It's called cod au gratin.
Okay.
If you've heard of potatoes au gratin,
No.
potatoes.
Okay.
It's potatoes with cream and cheese.
Okay.
So
Sounds
this
good.
is cod
Okay.
with cream and cheese.
That fits.
Now-
I dig it.
Fish and cheese.
Why Adam thought it was a good idea to get this dish on a ferry is beyond me, because when it arrived, it had absolutely no seasoning whatsoever, and we were dumping pepper packets
They had
onto
pepper packets, but then it just tasted like
A
cream
lot of
with pepper on it.
Now, if you've seen Airplane, well, was it the fish that got everyone sick, or was it the steak? I think it was the
God,
fish.
probably the
Anyway.
fish.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
funny.
I guess boat food and airplane food are kind of in the same tier. There was a very comfortable boat. I got my cod au gratin experience
Do
in.
you all have sea legs, or do you guys?
You
not
get
your
them
thing?
pretty
Me more
quickly.
than her.
Okay.
You get
She gets a little bit of nauseousness, but again, thank God we had calm seas.
Did you take any? What was it, Benadryl or anything?
Yeah,
We
you
had it
have
with
to.
us, but I didn't need any.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
it was
No.
pretty fun. It was a pretty big boat too, so it's able to just cut through the
And
waters.
you get a room, so they have a cot for you to lay down if you're feeling ill at all.
Yeah.
That was nice. You're not just
Yeah.
like sitting down the whole time, just kind of waiting. Like we had our basically own like hotel room. They had a shower in there. We didn't use it, but it was pretty luxe accommodations, I'd say.
Yeah, because this video is also about like we want to get you to do this also if you wanted to. So like
It's
be
nice.
prepared.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you go through Marine Atlantic. That is the company. It's not crazy expensive.
It's
The
not
boat,
cheap
it's not
either.
cheap, but it's not stupid expensive. So you can, especially with the car, ends up being a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, once you get to tow that car.
You do have
Yeah.
to get a boat there and back, though.
Sure.
So that does
Unless you
add
want to
up.
live in Newfoundland.
It is
Okay.
lovely there, but we haven't been there over the winter, so.
Yeah, summers are great. Sure.
So,
Another cool thing about going to Newfoundland is it's in its own time zone.
oh,
It's half an hour ahead of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick and everything, which is itself an hour ahead of the East Coast. So you're an hour and a half ahead of New York when you're in Newfoundland.
I'm laughing because I feel like they're like the black sheep, province, because it's just like, oh, I gotta adjust, or ding you.
You are in your own world here. I mean, it is on the edge of everything.
Okay.
Now, when we were in Newfoundland, we talked to some people who lived there, and there are some common misconceptions that even Canadians have. Because a lot of people just don't get out here because you have to take a ferry out there.
It's
So
remote.
people wonder, like, do you have pharmacies? Do you have basic amenities? And of course they do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they are so far remote that they have their own distinct culture there. And it's so amazing that it's just this place.
The nicest people you will ever meet. You hear about Canadians being the nicest people.
It's
These are the
Newfoundland.
nicest of
Okay.
the Canadians.
Yes.
Okay.
Here, just like the most chill, mostly Irish people. You don't even have to like pay for your drinks there. You just start
It's just
chatting
nice.
someone up, and they are just the most wonderful
Do they have
people.
not to stay on the ferry thing too long, but
Yeah,
like, do they
please.
have a smaller ferry for like kind of this local idea of people that want to kind of
It's all just this one company. So if you don't have a car, you can even just get a cheaper ticket and just be in a seat the whole time.
Okay.
But it is very worth getting the room.
Sure. Okay.
Getting
so
that
very
level
nice
of privacy.
people, drinks all around. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I mean, we get in kind of late afternoon, early evening.
Okay.
It's pouring when we get there, just like violently pouring from the skies.
Okay.
But by the time we get out with our car, it's beautiful weather. So that's Newfoundland for you.
Okay.
Is if you don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes.
Real one of those.
It's
okay.
because I mean, think about it. It's this island in the middle of the North Atlantic. Some of like the most
Titanic
tempestuous seas in the world, and it's just a little bit of land set in the middle of all that. So it's just getting swirled weather from all over the place here.
You might hear it affectionately called the Rock, just for that reason.
Huh. That's awesome.
So yeah, we drove once we got there. We drove about 2.5 hours to this lovely town called Corner Brook.
Oh my god.
Stayed in this
What made
lovely
it
hotel. It was
It's everything you
it's
would
a little
want in a small
tourist town. Yeah, it's a great town near the main national park in Newfoundland. So it has great modern amenities, a fantastic, one of the best hotels
What's
I've
the
honestly ever
distance
stayed in.
between the national park and that town?
An hour?
Less than an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like it's right there. I mean, it's
a nice
yeah,
drive.
you know, if Moab compared to Canyonlands, you know, for a more local comparison.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, for anyone who like comes in exhausted and then like has an hour to kill, it's not that far. You can still do
Not
it.
at all.
But then you still got to spend time in the park. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
But yeah, we stay at this place called the Hue and Draw Hotel. It's connected with a brewery, so you can. So they have like their local brews in the mini fridge, and
Breakfast is included, and they have the restaurant actually make you a breakfast to your order.
it's
Okay.
really good.
And was
this was
there
a great
breakfast
place.
there, or what did you at least
Maybe
get
like
there?
French toast or something.
Something
Okay.
Really
rich
lovely.
and luxe, and it was a
Okay.
great time. It was
Okay.
a really great time. I would gladly stay there.
I'm glad that the
Again.
small towns have kept that kind of idea of having breweries and bars and
Oh
pubs.
yeah, oh yeah.
Especially up there when it's cold, you can't go outside.
right.
What
Yeah,
are you gonna do?
right? Just say hi to your friends and get a drink. I
Now,
don't get it.
the cool thing about Newfoundland and about
Okay.
this whole region is this rock and the earth there actually predates Pangea. It comes from
Ooh.
that formation that came right before. So this is some of the oldest rock in the world that's still surviving to this day. And you have that mountain range. So when people think of Appalachia or Appalachia, whatever you call it, you think rolling hills, you know, but those used to be giant mountains before Pangea was now what we have today.
But it was connected and it did break off, and it's the
Well, what it
original.
was
Wow.
it was this, you know, Appalachia was this massive mountain range in the core of Pangea.
Okay.
But then when North America split off from Europe and Africa, it kind of unzipped this mountain range down the middle, and that's why you have like the mountains of Scotland and Norway on one side,
Yeah.
and then, you know, your West Virginia all the way up through Newfoundland on the other side.
Right.
And so you just get this
That's cool.
amazing geography
Yeah.
here. And that's why we have this national park called Gros Morne National Park. We're transitioning today, day 40, now
Sure.
going to this national park. And one of the coolest features of this, from all the tectonic movements, is there's actually an area where the ground is bare mantle rock.
You're walking
So
on the
there's
earth's
like
mantle.
almost nothing can grow on it because it's mantle. It's just
Wow.
naked earth
Yeah.
right there. No crust, just right to, you know, it's not lava, of course,
Yeah.
but it's
pink.
it is pink.
And
It's
it's
a
pink.
beautiful, yeah, it's this beautiful
Walking on
Yeah.
that,
That's
you feel.
cool, though.
I mean, it's just mentally. There's nothing like knowing you are walking on the Earth's mantle.
Right.
yeah, below you it's just that all the way down to the liquid iron core.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, what's also cool about this whole region, especially Gros Morne in Newfoundland, is when the plate tectonic theory was first gaining some traction, you know, people were like, okay, this could be a viable theory as to why the Earth is the way it is. One of the first bits of evidence that actually proved that this theory was viable was the fact that they looked at the Earth here in Gross Moor.
Okay.
So you
That's
going
cool.
around, you'll find guidebooks with that information and those whole, I wouldn't say reports, but all of the evidence compiled. So as you're traveling Newfoundland, you can find those bits of evidence around you as you go around the island.
Because Newfoundland itself, as this island in the middle of the Atlantic didn't always exist. And so when the Atlantic was forming by these continents moving apart, Newfoundland was this bit that was left behind kind of in the middle.
Okay.
So it shows all these cool aspects of both of these continents coming together and then separating again.
Now, I don't expect you to know, but is there any such place elsewhere with like an exposed mantle or anything like that?
No, I
you
think
know
that's
of?
completely unique.
Okay,
As
that's
far
awesome.
as far as I know, that's completely unique to go there.
That's worth a Google later, though.
That is,
curious.
Don't,
I don't know if there's
take me
like-
with a little bit of a grain of salt, but I'm 99%
Like
sure.
I said,
The only place I could think of potentially would be like the Great Rift Valley, but I
I
don't
think
know.
so. Yeah, that really is. It's such unique geology here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
That's cool though. Oh my
I could have
gosh.
spent my entire life there just exploring. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
another thing that's really cool about Newfoundland is there's no natural predators on the island. So if you go into the woods, you can go into the woods. The only thing that they say is, according to folklore, and some people do believe this, is that there are great black cats there. And they think this because, there's one theory we heard that there was a circus train that crashed, and others that it got released. It was someone's pet and it got released. And some people report seeing it, but that's the only thing you'll hear about any sort of
Still.
predator. So you can walk into the
There are
woods.
moose, and they are big and they can kill you, but they're
Yes.
not going to kill you to eat you.
They don't
Yeah.
actively, well, unless
But
you,
that said, this day of day 40, we had moose burgers for lunch, so it's
So we were the
See,
natural
he got
predators.
back at them for no reason. I love it.
which is actually surprisingly tasty.
Oh, I
Yeah.
bet. Previously, they in another video they went to Alaska, and they said as they had to like change a tire, they actually had to be kind of on the lookout for bears. So that's where it's kind of interesting
Big
because they're
time.
talking about the moose being the scariest animal, and that's
Now
cool.
we did, what day was that? I think it was this day that we were driving, we went on this hike and we saw the whale. No, that was
No, that was
earlier.
in Gaspé.
Yeah, so at that point, we were pulling up this hill and we saw a moose standing at the very top. And if you've never seen a moose bull, you have no idea how big it is. I was picturing a horse but slightly larger. This is one of the largest animals I have ever seen. It is just massive, this unit of an animal. There's no way to explain it. Larger than a car, for sure.
Like a
Almost two.
FedEx truck just went by, and that might be about equivalent size.
Massive. So when they
Yeah.
say a moose can kill you, a moose can kill you, because that is all muscle.
No, you know what's funny? I do really feel like those animals, they don't scale too often, and they should. You know what I mean? Because we have the Rocky and Bullwinkle and all that, and and that's crazy. But anyway, it's just like, what was it? Northern Exposure, that TV show, I think, had like a moose in its intro, and you still didn't quite get. But yeah, mooses they're huge.
You don't know until you've seen one right there in front of you.
Is it one of those that crosses the town? Like, do you see them kind of on the streets in the
They're
morning,
around. Oh
stuff
yeah,
like
they're
that?
absolutely
They
around.
can show up in your backyard too at any given time.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you're speeding in a place like Newfoundland,
You can't.
you're not worried about the cops stopping you. You're worried about a moose, which is a
Hitting
hell of a lot
you.
scarier than any cop.
So you aren't speeding.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to hit a rock. That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah,
The
exactly.
moose, honestly, they'd probably be fine at the end of the day. Who knows? The car wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, the
yeah.
moose probably wouldn't be having a great time, but.
Well, I was in New York one time, and we were driving. We saw the deer crossing thing, and you obviously being a West Coaster or whatever, you don't believe it almost. You're just kind of like, what are the odds? But I kid you not, that night, a deer almost, if we were a second closer, we would have hit this thing.
Yep.
And it's crazy how these animals really will just not care and go.
Well, they're not.
They don't know.
Yeah. What do they know of 60, 70 miles an hour? Where does that happen in the natural world?
They have no, but
They're not
their
designed for that.
Instinct is not, you're just like, all right. But
It's
I
like
hear
in
you.
California, the only thing we really have to worry about is deer and
Maybe.
maybe a bear, but it's like you're not.
North.
Yeah.
Yeah. Down here, there's
Yeah.
nothing. What is there to hit here?
So going
yeah.
to a place where you have to be constantly aware and vigilant of things that might hit your car and you might hit, and also as you're getting out of the car might be a danger to you, is something that for myself, my brain was not used to assessing and being aware of. So that's also...
That's a whole nother skill as a driver. Because, yeah, I mean, you just can't speed. It's stupid. Like, that's suicide. It's not, oh, I'm risking a couple $100 for a ticket. That's your life.
Yeah.
But many cups half full, one of them being it gets you to enjoy the scenery.
Yes.
So.
Yes, it does. Keeps you looking. Sure does.
You might see a bear on the side of the road, or a moose, or right in front of you. You know? There's always
porcupines
something.
we saw.
Oh,
We've
that's
seen
cool.
all sorts
We saw
of cool
beavers
stuff.
on the trip too.
Yeah.
Just waddling across the road, so don't hit the beavers
Really?
either.
Aw.
Oh yeah, everything.
Adorbs.
Especially
Yeah.
up in Alaska, you see everything up on everything. But okay, so day 40, we ended in this town called Gander, Newfoundland. This town became famous in well, I mean it's
Did you take a gander?
it's been a very famous town because before jetliners could get over the Atlantic on one tank, they had to stop halfway between North America and Europe, and this was
Tis
the
the
place that you
spot.
can stop and refuel. So for a very remote town, it has this massive airport. It used to be one of the biggest airports in the world.
Okay.
Everyone's
And
been there, from Muhammad Ali. You have the Queen of England. Who else has been there?
I mean, anyone who would have gone to or from North America, Fidel Castro
He went.
has a
he
story
went,
of
sledding out there.
Yeah, imagine there is a kid in Newfoundland now, an adult surely, but who has a story of when they were a little kid sledding around Newfoundland, and Fidel Castro walked up to them asking, "Oh, can I borrow your sled?" So everyone in the world has been through this
Now, is this
in a certain era.
is this airport something you can't help but drive to, or did you have to go out of your way to see this?
It's along the main road.
Okay.
Yeah.
We chose to stay here because there is this musical called Come From Away.
And well, it's in this musical tells the story of during 9/11, all the planes that were crossing the Atlantic trying to go to North America, especially the United States. Once the events of 9/11 unfolded, the airspace in the United States closed for almost a week, just totally closed, no fly zone. So what do you do with planes full of thousands of people flying over the ocean, from all over the world trying to land? You had to put them in a giant airport in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
And people did get, landed. They landed across Newfoundland and all those other places. But the story follows specifically Gander and the surrounding towns. So in that, you hear the people's actual experiences. They actually went out and interviewed people, talked to them, heard their stories, and chose a few stories to highlight. You highlight the story of a woman whose son was a firefighter in New York during those events. You follow a woman, the first female pilot for American Airlines, her tale and what her experiences of those events. The people in the town, you have, you meet Beulah, who still is there in Gander and still works with the Legion and is as funny as she is depicted. She's just a wonderful person.
Well, what's important to know is this is a town that at that time, it's grown a little bit since, but in that time it was a town of 9,000. And without any warning, 7,000 people from around the world landed there for an indeterminate amount of time.
Oh.
That could be a disaster anywhere. But the people of Gander specifically stepped up to the occasion and took care of these people's every need: housing, food, clothes, every need for almost a week, until the airspace was opened up again and they could leave. And that, of course, leads to amazing humanitarian stories.
Yeah.
Everyone in this town has a story.
That's cool.
Because
And the whole island too. We were going out to fellow, surrounding areas, and they're like, either I was there or my town also got people that we had to take care of. And people, as soon as you mention either Come From Away or 9/11 or something along those lines, or why you're there, they'll just get this look on their face and remember. You could tell this is a traumatic time, but people came together and they took care of one another.
And Gander is the only place outside of the United States where we shared steel from the World Trade Center because of how these people stepped up and took care of people.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that story, I mean, that eventually turned into an amazing musical, just closed on Broadway, unfortunately.
One of the best musicals I've ever seen. It is powerful.
What's it called again?
Come From Away.
You can watch
which
it.
is what people were referred to as, like, you are the Come From Aways. Because, it's very tight-knit communities in Newfoundland. Outsiders don't come very often.
Yeah.
So to have 7,000 people
Influx.
from around the world landing there who didn't even want to be there
Yeah.
is a major story. And that story was such an inspiration to us. We wanted to stay in this town. We wanted to talk with
Sure.
these people. We wanted to have these, I've seen this musical multiple times, and we wanted to see the real life locations mentioned in there. So we got to this town. We were driving around, and one of the major locations was the Canadian Legion there. That's where a lot of people stayed. It was where a lot of the story unfolded. It was just a major location. We went there, it looked kind of closed. We were just kind of poking around the parking lot. I just kind of like looked in a little bit. And just as I was ready to get back to the car, pat myself on the back, said, I seen it. The door opened, and this lovely person just like, hey, we're open. You want to come on in? Get a drink? How could I say no to that?
Right.
We got to spend a few hours talking to people from the town, hearing their stories, not just about those events, because we didn't want to ask about those events.
Yeah.
But we just got to ask questions about what's it like to live here? Who are you?
What's your story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone was so warm and welcoming, and
I couldn't pay for the drink if I begged to.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just the nicest, coolest people. They were so welcoming us. They wanted to hear our story as well.
I mean, how often do you get to go somewhere where you can just connect with people? People are excited and interested in hearing your story and sharing theirs. That's such a human experience, and that really does define Newfoundland as just a place where you can go and you are welcome.
That's cool. That's very cool. That's very beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a place where they don't lock their cars and they leave their keys on the dash.
Good.
You
that's
imagine
cool.
that in Southern
Still-
California?
Still exists.
It does still exist. It is, yeah, there's still a place out there that just kind of has that natural innocence to it, I guess is a
Yeah.
way to describe that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, another thing is when we were entering Gander, we were driving through a hell of a thunderstorm.
We had amazing weather throughout this trip, with very few exceptions. This was one of the most notable exceptions to that. I was genuinely scared of being blown off the road
I mean,
here or
winds were that
hit by
strong,
lightning.
huh?
And the roads themselves, this is rural, this is out there. The roads themselves have grooves where the tire marks go. So when it rains heavily, those collect the water. So you're either having to like hydroplane yourself if you're staying in the middle of the lane, or you're having to like awkwardly hug one side or the other. So you're not hydroplaning all over the place.
Yeah.
That was terrifying.
There's lightning going on all around us, and we managed to get into the hotel. We're like, all right, we're safe. We're checking in, and right as we're doing so, a bolt of lightning goes, "Spoosh," and we actually feel like a sonic boom.
It was
Wow.
flash boom.
There
like
wasn't even that second in between.
Yeah, it was right there.
The lightning bolt
Couldn't
hit a
count the
building
seconds.
in the town.
Everyone got quiet, even the locals. Just kind of reevaluated your mortality and then just went back to their business.
Yeah, what can you do? What can you do?
I mean, Newfoundland, crazy weather. And we had great weather for being in Newfoundland. You don't have this
were you?
there.
I forgot. Were you guys prepared for that kind of thing? Did you have
How
a
can you?
jacket?
How can you
Or-
be? I
Well,
mean,
we had
Maybe a
rain
jacket or
jackets.
something?
sure, you know,
Okay.
we had the basic stuff you need, but like, what can you do when you're hydroplaning all over the place
Yeah.
in a
Nature,
remote
you
road?
can't prepare for nature in that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other than to seek shelter, and even then, that spoosh might be on where you are.
Yeah,
God, that's
yeah. How do you
insane.
prepare for lightning? You
No.
know,
But to hear that, that's got to be cool. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
I mean,
Nothing like it. That was just
Yeah.
a
being
sonic
back,
boom.
being alive,
Yeah.
that was it's a cool memory.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So how does this?
So day 41, we pretty much we did 2 nights in Gander because we really wanted to explore this town, have a good, meaningful experience here.
We talked to the head of the tourism board. We were just outside the
City Hall.
The city hall, and he comes out and he goes, "Do you want to kind of learn more?" I mean, the janitor came and told us that and brought us inside and brought out the tourism director.
This is how nice people are in Newfoundland. You don't even have to seek people out or say like, "Hey, I'm asking for something." Just exist, and people will come up to you and connect with you.
Good.
And that's just so wholesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to talk with the head of tourism there. He told us tons and tons of stories about, living in Gander, the events in and around 9/11 that happened.
And what
there.
life's been like after,
Sure.
What's
Yeah.
it like dealing with a winter there? What's it like, etc. You could just ask questions, and he was excited to share because
He even gave us a copy of the minutes of the the disaster group that met, of city council and all the meetings around planning how to take care of all these people. We got a copy of the minutes. He
It
was
is
just
a
like,
thick
hang on for a
packet.
minute. And we just got this amazing insider information, literally just for showing up and being interested.
Oh, that's cool.
So cool. And we did a little side trip that day to this town called Twilingate, which is kind of on the north coast of Newfoundland. Now, earlier on in the year, we were there kind of mid-July. But if you're there in May and June, you see these massive icebergs. We missed it this trip.
cities of icebergs.
Yeah, just monsters like the size of apartment buildings floating down the coast.
That's cool.
And that is the place to see that. We missed it this time,
We
but
will
it's
be back.
still so gorgeous.
Good.
Just to see the edge of the ocean out there, the beautiful rocks, the amazing lighthouses out there, because you gotta have lighthouses. I mean, this is shipwreck territory.
Sure.
There are, everywhere you can go to beaches and find little metal pieces of ships that that have crashed.
And there'll be a plaque
Very
describing the
dramatic.
events of that shipwreck.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
That's not
That's
an
fun.
uncommon occurrence.
that's just local culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, we went back to the Legion. We got to meet Beulah, which is one of the, if you've seen Come From Away, you've heard of Beulah.
Her stories, kind of ties a lot of the other people's stories together.
And because we were in this Legion, and are you here? Well, we heard of this place through this musical, through this story.
We're also interested
and they're
in
like,
Newfoundland.
hey, you want to meet one of the people from the show?
What do you say? Of course.
Yeah. And they're like, come back sometime tomorrow. We'll call her up and she'll come down.
Nice.
And so of course we did. So we went
How
back.
is she?
So kind.
Such a
and
lovely
hilarious.
person. Yeah,
She has the best jokes.
Alright.
She's great. She's great. It was so great to meet her, get a picture with her,
Yeah.
just sit down, have a chat in one of the places that's so important to this story, talking with one of the people that's
Yeah.
so central to this story.
That
was a deeply special experience.
Yeah, no.
And
Yeah.
That
Also,
sounds
the
really cool.
director of tourism, he's done a fabulous job creating these plaques around the town in the places that are mentioned from Come From Away about the events that happened that week that describe where you are, why it was mentioned, and what the place is. And also
Yeah.
another thing is, anytime you talk to someone and they know you're Come From Away, they're just gonna hand you free stuff. People are they're like, oh, here's a pin.
We got
oh.
all these amazing little Gander and Newfoundland pins and everything. I can't wait to go back there. Put that on your list. Newfoundland needs to be on the top of your list. It's not the easiest thing in the world to get there, but once you're there, you will never forget it.
That's cool.
There's
That's right up my
nowhere
alley.
like it. I mean, we talk all, Alaska, we're going back to Yukon, we're going back, etc. We're going back to Newfoundland. That is number one.
Okay.
There's no place like it. It is so special there. There's just from the geology, the people, the culture, the history, everything is just so unique.
There's so much to
Okay.
see, too.
Woo.
I mean, it's an island, but it's a pretty big island. There's a lot to see there.
You could just walk out into the wilderness. There'll be old World War II bunkers, and they'll just abandon that. It's oh yeah, that's out there. You can just go explore.
I was going to ask about the military bases and all that, because if you're talking about, it being kind of this center spot for, planes and ships and all that, there had to have been some
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, especially around like World War II and everything, that was a very
strategic
critical.
zone for Canada against,
Yeah.
against Germany at that Nazi Germany at that time.
Because these are like U-boat waters
Yeah.
out here. So yeah, definitely, it's a very important place.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, we learned that the Comfort Inn where we stayed there was actually the place where a lot of the pilots were put up during 9/11, including the first American female commercial pilot.
Ah.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Day 41, next day 42.
Okay.
Where we are going around eastern Newfoundland on our way to St. John's, which is the main city out there.
Really cool city.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah, okay.
First, we stopped in this place called Barbour's Island, which is kind of like, one of those like living history kind of places where you can go see how people used to live.
Specifically, this one family who were very wealthy, so they have these like beautiful mansions right on the water. But the coolest part of that, other than, being able to step back in time through these houses that haven't been touched for decades, is actually talking to the people that live there. So we were asking nonstop questions like, when did your family come here? What's it like living here? What's it like, making a living here? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And people are open to sharing their stories. I mean, if someone asks you about who you are, of course you're going to answer. Mm-hmm. And you get the opportunity to learn more about life in a place that's completely different, especially for here in Southern California.
But also to see this amazingly preserved history too, because they still had all the clothes, the sheets, the beds, the furniture, the art that these people had.
The wallpaper, the tiling, everything was preserved, and they're working on continually preserving it too.
Okay.
That was really special. Really special. And they had a restaurant on site with much better cod au gratin. So I was actually able to try that dish again, but good this time.
Okay. Did you good? All right.
If you like fish and cheese.
Right. I mean, they're not bad,
Yeah.
Good.
No, that was.
What kind of cheese? Or similar to, or
yeah, I mean,
something creamy, like
it's like
light.
fondue-ish.
Yeah, similar.
Kind of baked in a little, look up potatoes au gratin, and it's basically the same thing, but with fish.
Or anything? Did it have a good, did it have a taste that stuck out at all?
It's just creamy.
Creamy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, ended up in the city of St. John's, Newfoundland. It's really gorgeous. You have like, it's very maritime, so you get like all these different colored houses and stuff, and it's right on like the eastern port. Like this is a major port town to like connecting Europe and North America, especially. But the most important thing we did there was this ceremony called the Screech Inn.
Screech Inn.
This is a ceremony covered in the musical Come From Away as well.
And this is just a fun
touristy.
Yes. But if you're there, it's like the saying, like, when in Rome, when in Newfoundland.
When in Newfoundland, get Screeched In. It's fun. It's a ceremony in which you become an honorary Newfoundlander.
Okay.
You learn about some of the history. So
no two places do it the same as well. Everyone has their own spin. So you go to one place versus another, and you're gonna have a completely different
we went
experience.
to the OG place.
Okay.
Where they do it 3 times a day. You go into this bar, they close it up, they lock it up, and by the time you get out of here, you'll be Newfoundlanders.
They start blasting
sea shanties, Newfoundland music.
The
first part of it is they cook a fried bologna.
Okay.
Which is a very Newfoundland dish. It's called Newfoundland steak.
Okay.
It's
flames were going up, and let me just say, it was delicious.
I didn't think that fried bologna could be so good, but they were saying that's the rich food in the old days in Newfoundland. It's just like, you are hoity-toity if you have your fried bologna for dinner. Everyone else just gets their cod, but if you have fried bologna, you've made it in life.
I love how it's like almost reversed. If you can get a fish that's like and then the bologna. That's awesome. So
that's the first part, is everyone eats a piece of the fried bologna, and then I mentioned the cod.
The cod.
So the cod is integral to the economy here. Evidently it used to be the case that you could just go out in a boat, drop a bucket, bring it back up, and it'd be full of cod.
That's awesome.
So
Not anymore. They have been overfished or have moved, and now the industry is moving more towards lobster.
but part of the ceremony, a very necessary part of the ceremony
Of the screech.
of the screech in is you have to kiss a cod.
Okay.
So they bring out, in this place it was a frozen cod.
About yay big.
Yeah.
We were first, thank goodness.
Yeah, we're a little nervous COVID-y wise, where it's like
Yeah.
20, 30 people in a bar and everyone's kissing the same
Yeah.
cod, but thank
Number
goodness
one,
we were first.
Number 2.
I gave her a big smooch.
I wish you were able to like kiss what you were gonna eat then. That would no.
Yeah.
But
Depends on where
okay.
you go.
So you gotta kiss the cod. It's a vital part of the tradition.
So they were more than happy to volunteer first. So that's cool.
Better than being the 25th person to kiss the cod.
Yeah.
And then the most of, it's called the screech in ceremony. Screech is a Newfoundland rum, but
The
made in
reas-
Jamaica.
The reason for that is that was a trade route. So the people of Newfoundland would go, they would catch their cod, they would dry and salt it. And the thing about dry and salted cod is it doesn't get dry. It stays moist because of the high fat and oil content in the fish.
So
they
if you
would-
go to a Jamaican restaurant, you will see salted cod. That's a
'cause of the
vital
trade.
part of the cuisine.
So they would go down, trade the cod for sugar and rum. So they'd bring the sugar back
Stuff
up
you
to
cannot
Newfoundland.
find in Newfoundland.
No.
But
no
you need
sugar
in Newfoundland
canes
to get
there.
through the winters.
So they bring
Okay.
it back up, and at some point they started making
It used
their
to be
own.
it used to be really bad quality. So the
You'd make it
story is in sometime around World War II, there's an officer stationed in Newfoundland,
Okay.
and all the locals were tossing back their rum, and so this officer decides to get some too, tosses it back, and lets out this ear-piercing screech.
Okay.
And it was like everyone turned, what was that ungodly screech?
And that was, all right.
And so that's how that was born.
Wow.
Now it is regulated now. They do have.
It's rum.
It's rum.
It's
It's very basic.
I was gonna say
rum.
I want to try the moonshine version, the bathtub making one. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I want the hair on the chest rum. All right. Anyway.
it's rum. It's perfectly
But now
fine.
it's regular.
But it still does have that connotation with it, where it's just
Sure.
like, you ask for a screech and the locals kind of raise an eyebrow. They're like, why do you want that?
Just get a beer.
Just get a beer. Their beer's better, but it's just like, yeah, but that's the culture
Right?
and
Yeah,
all
I'm
that.
a tourist.
But so you take your shot of screech, and what's the thing you have
So
to
the
say? You have
brand
to-
is called Screech also. Or do you just kind of say that? And
That's
and
the
it's still called-
Newfoundland rum in
Rum.
Newfoundland basically is called screech.
But it's not like labeled.
It is.
It is.
Oh, okay.
It is. And the screech master asked, "Is he a screecher?" And you have to respond, "Deed I is, me old cock, and long may your big jib draw."
That sounds like a few drinks in. All right.
Which basically means, "Yes, I am, my dear friend, and may your sails be full of wind." Basically.
Cool. Yes. Yes.
So you gotta, and after you've done all that, you get a certificate saying that you are officially an honorary Newfoundlander.
So you memorized it. You had no problem repeating that. So I'm assuming that when they told you have to say this, you're like, all right. Because I feel
I
like
prepared.
He prepared, but then they walked you through. We did it all at once. So and he was a little disappointed.
I was ready. I was ready to go for it, to be the most enthusiastic one, but they were like, repeat after me, bit by bit. They just didn't want to deal with all the tourists messing it up, but I was right there. I was ready.
You were
I'm
on
still
it.
ready.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an honorary Newfoundlander,
Yeah.
so.
We have
Jeez.
our certificates framed. We're hanging them up in the office.
Cool. Cool. I like that.
That was, you have to do that if you're in Newfoundland. It's just so
Yeah.
much fun. It's
Yeah.
it's kitschy, but in the best way.
Okay.
Yeah.
They
But
play
n-
some rockin' songs there at the place we went to. I like SoundClouded it like the whole time, and I was just like, this rocks.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
all right.
They have this weird. So, England and France used to be enemies, and therefore their colonies here in North America were also enemies. Now, England and France kind of patched things up, but here in North America, well, specifically
Never.
Canada,
Yeah.
things didn't get patched up. So, even in this song we were listening to, the Newfoundlander was like, I'm ready to fight. you know, the French.
Because Quebec wanted to lay claim to Labrador, which was kind of the ancestral fishing grounds of the people of Newfoundland.
Okay.
But it was also the ancestral fishing grounds of the people that were there first.
Of the French colonists, too.
Well, also the people that were there first.
Of course.
Native.
Of course.
Okay.
So there's this whole mess of history that just hasn't been resolved in Canada between different provinces. And a lot of that's the fact that, you know, the people, the Quebecois, like, they were basically unwelcome because they didn't speak English. And the other Canadian provinces weren't willing to speak French. So up until very recently, things were very monolingual. So you have that whole province that's being unrepresented and, you know, isn't
basically a nation in and of itself.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
might as well be. And there's a lot of people that want that, you know, a lot of the older generation still.
Yeah.
So there's still this unresolved rivalry that the younger generation's kind of working on.
It's still alive in Newfoundland, though.
Yeah.
We definitely heard people at the bars being like, you know what? I don't care for the French. It's like, oh, okay. All right. I guess you don't.
And there's actually this small island that France owns.
Still, Saint-Pierre and Miquelon, right off of the Newfoundland coast, is still
France.
capital F France.
That's not
Like
Canada.
you can get we missed it on this trip, but you can just get a little boat over, and you are in France.
They use
euros
yeah.
are the currency.
Yeah.
The wine's cheaper than the water. Like it's France.
That's an obvious middle finger. All right.
Right, which was a very important part of the liquor trade, actually, between Canada, France, and the United States, especially during Prohibition.
Okay.
So people could just take their boats over, get cheap French wine and liquor,
go over to the U.S. as well.
pop over to the U.S. on their little boats, pop over to their local bars around Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very interesting geopolitical situation in this part of the world.
You gotta love these imaginary lines we create, huh?
Yeah, I mean, look at that. It's just a little island that.
Right there.
Yeah, Saint-Pierre and Miquelon. Next time we're going. Yeah.
We're saying it kind of late, but you know, he has a folder, and that's what we're looking at because it's not really in frame, so it's just one of those. But,
It's my day-by-day itinerary of the trip. This is vaguely what it looks like. This is just what we had, so we knew which way we were going.
But I do like this as a stopping point. So we're gonna be starting up on day 43 of 62, and I love this. So I can't wait for people to watch this because I hope anybody that just likes to hear these stories, like, because it's interesting hearing it. So thank you for taking the time for doing this.
Awesome.
And
Adam also documented everything really well on his Instagram, which is
yes.
Aloha Shirt Dad with underscores in between the words. So Aloha underscore shirt underscore dad. He did a good job documenting it day by day. There's pictures, there's descriptions of what we did, where we went, and feel free to DM him if you have any questions or want advice planning any of your trips.
Please.
Yes. And you know, this is a YouTube thing, so all that info that you can find him on will be on the description box too. So, you know, that's cool. But yeah, thank you so much, Isabel and Adam.
Yeah.
Happy travels.
Until next time, we're going to continue this. All right. See you, everybody. Hey, everybody. Guess what? I wrote an illustrated children's book. I am super excited for this. It's a great book, so please support. Please buy. Please do whatever you feel like doing. The Giraffe and the Lion. Find it anywhere. Thanks, everybody.